Madam Chairman, the only question that I have is it says members absent, so I don't know if that's committee members or if Kevin Crystal's on the board. Okay. Okay. Oh, no, because he would still be on for the last meeting then. My apologies.
If I may, Mr. Hemingway, a member, and he was absent, so it needs to be added on.
Any further corrections?
No.
Do I hear a motion?
I motion.
Second.
Seconded.
Now I'll call for
Aye.
any opposed?
Yeah, so we had a call on February 11th. For those of you that are interested in participating, I know several members on this committee participate in it, that our next call is February 24th. The purpose of this summit is to bring together residents, developers, and elected officials and community leaders to increase awareness of local housing challenges, especially affordable housing projects, share updated data-driven insights, highlight successful local housing solutions, and address legislative developments and anything that may impact affordable housing, and then facilitate actionable next steps. As you guys know, the cost to live in Walton County is not affordable. So the purpose of this committee and the Housing Summit is really just to bring awareness and on actionable things that we can do to afford that the people that make our area great and thrive can afford to live here. So we are doing the Housing Summit. We did agree and get confirmation that we are doing May 13th. So please block that. I would obviously love to have full participation from everyone on this committee. And I think that's it. Any questions about what we talked about? Like I said, just really putting faces to names, having Alice, United Way come in and kind of put a face to a name about who needs affordable housing in our area and just what the current rentals are, what the current housing prices are. Hopefully an update from Tom Baker. So all things housing. Any questions?
I'm sorry, for the folks who are listening at home, how can they find out more about this meeting? Where will this be publicized for folks? Okay,
So Ryan Mims from Department of Health. So I believe that they should just be able to look that up. If not, I can look up his email, while we're talking for that.
Yeah.
But the next meeting is 1 o'clock, February 24th. It's next Tuesday.
I just want to make sure that people from the public who would like to attend this meeting have a way to find out more about it and register.
So hopefully they'll be publishing more for the Department of Health. Ryan is with the Department of Health. And once again, for the record, that Housing Summit is scheduled for May 13th.
Thank you.
Could you push the button, please?
I was telling, just saying that it's been so long since I've been here, I couldn't remember how to get to to the room. Yeah, for the last year, I've been going through some treatments and had not been able to be in public meetings very much.
Your name?
Diane McManus, and I'm with HHA, the Homeless and Housing Alliance. We have so many times. I appreciate all of you so much. It's so critical, and this summit is going to be a way for us all just to bring all those issues to the table and get everybody involved. So thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Moving right along in our agenda to Roman numeral 4, housing review and miscellaneous. We have a housing plan application. Good morning.
I think I'm on. Okay. So last year, end of November, I believe, we put in an application to qualify for the Housing Action Plan. In the last meeting, we had the presentation. So they did accept us. So that's good. So me and Melissa have actually been in contact, Melissa Ward, by the way. We have been in contact with Ali Alkadanwich. I hate to mispronounce their name, but so we had an email follow-up, and the only barrier that we have is funding. Now, they did provide two ideas for us to secure fundings for that. So number one would be, they have worked with local governments in the past in order to fund their housing action plans, and one of the grants that they recommended was the Community Planning Technical Assistant Grant. Say that 5 times fast. So the application has a deadline of August the 1st. And so what they were saying is that if they were to apply, they would be happy to assist us in the application on that they would review the materials and request that funding. And if so, then when we would apply, if we were to be accepted with that grant, that they can move forward with the housing action plan for us. And then they also asked if there were any other local governments in the RPC service area who might be interested in the planning that would allow for them to pull resources and obviously put towards the action plan. So the estimated cost is about $50,000, and so that's the base. They are willing to offer a discount for that, so they estimate that we would only have to contribute that $50,000. Everything else, they would discount for us. So with applying for that grant, it should cover that $50K. So what I wanted to do was obviously present that for you all in terms of if you would like to move forward with the action plan as well as the grant to cover that $50K. And then I know we talked about this via email. So what I would like to do is send this also via email to everyone who was on that original message where we initially applied, so they can know we actually were approved. But this would be the next steps.
Do you want us to motion for minutes? Would that make?
First of all, before we move forward with doing anything, this is a committee that does not have discretionary funding attached to it. And because we're an appointed board by the county commission, I would like for, before we move forward, for Kristen as our staff person to find out from administration if this board needs to, one, gain approval to apply for the grant as other departments and boards do from the BCC, and two, have attached to that request a motion for Vicari to act on our behalf in securing the grant, because I know every county department has to gain approval first, and someone has to be appointed the project manager. So rather than us assume we can blithely move forward, I just want to make sure that we're on firm footing. Does anyone have any problem with what I just said? Does that make sense? That we gain approval from BCC? We've been approved to move forward, but we're asking your permission to move forward for this amount with Vakari being our project manager. That is the motion that I would say we need to have before we go in any further. Does that sound reasonable to everyone?
Does. I would just like to, first of all, thank you. I was just going to say, well, hang on a second. I want to make sure we're doing this, and I agree
Right.
with you.
Yeah.
So
you
the
have
county
to.
commission has to give us, because we're an advisory committee. But I would also like to just sort of to add to that, that I would like to know when you're going to present that to the county commission in case we, and I understand that you would represent, I would assume that you would represent or somebody before the planning, or before the BCC what we're asking for, but that potentially if there's need for support, I would like to be at that meeting in case we need to support it,
Yes.
to explain the
We
situation.
need to be there.
Oh,
to
yes, for
support
sure.
We would
that.
want to be there in support, but
As a
it's-
recommendation
it's
from
a-
this
you know,
committee.
We're requesting permission to apply for this $50,000, and I think that the request would come from staff, be that Kristen or Stephen.
Okay.
With you there representing to be the project manager, and this would be a standard kind of item on a BCC meeting. And we, as the committee, those of us who are able, would like to be there in support of that, and in support of you.
Absolutely.
Basically,
And we do
cheerleading
have,
behind you.
based on their timeline, until August 1st to apply for the grant. So if we needed to flesh out, if you wanted to review the grant materials or anything like that, I'm totally down for that. I just wanted to present it before you all because last time it was email communication, and I know sometimes it can be a little difficult. And I also still do plan to summarize the email that was sent from Ali and send that out as well, just so everybody can be on the same page and know what they were mentioning as well as what the steps moving forward are.
Well, that to me is our first step.
So unless there's more discussion, I would move that we that the motion is to ask staff to present it to the county commission, that we can move forward with the grant.
Okay.
The action plan.
And I just would like to stress how important these housing plans, these housing action plans are for any county. It can make the difference between things really moving forward and just talking about things moving forward. It's something that we really need.
Absolutely, Diane. I completely agree. So this would be our official next step to acquiring the grant. I have a motion from Melissa to present this to the BCC for approval to apply for the grant, and I have a second from John. Thank you, John. Is there any further discussion? Because we can talk about next steps. We can talk about moving forward with a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting to discuss the actual grant, information to be fleshed out if we want to do that. I don't think that would really need to happen at a regular meeting. But if Vakari can send us information and we all want to participate with ideas, thoughts, how to make the grant truly pop, those kinds of things, then certainly we can do that. So I have a motion and a second on the floor.
I just want to state one thing that is so important because when I'm writing grants, it asks for that and I lose points that we don't
Exactly.
Yes.
have that in our county.
And I will say, I do plan on asking Ada to also come in. She's our designator grant writer at ECRC. So if we want to have her present at that meeting, I'm sure she wouldn't have any problems with discussing the layers of the grant as well.
I think that's a very good move that they know that we have an experienced grant writer working on it. We have an experienced project manager keeping everything in line, and we have staff support that can also help keep us between the ditches. Because we want to have a meaningful role in Walton County in what we do, that we truly are addressing affordable housing needs. My thing is just to be very, very careful that we're following BCC procedure and then we don't get outside the avenues of what they've created for us to do. And that's why I said it exactly that way. So, all in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion is passed unanimously. And then, Bakari, don't go anywhere. Our next item for business is the next AHAC meeting date, and this is the perfect time to discuss how often we meet, when we meet, and to help Ms. Bakari in establishing when our next meeting is. You have the floor.
Yes, absolutely. So, based on last year's timeline, it seems as though, as well as it being quarterly, it's usually every 2 months. So, for example, February, we would be meeting again in April, yes. So the question that I did want to have was, because we have the housing summit coming up on May 13th, our technical next meeting could have been April or May 19th. And I didn't know if you wanted to meet prior then to discuss, or if you wanted to meet afterwards to do maybe like a follow-up action, what could have been better type of situation. And then if that quarterly every 2 months still sticks. So if we wanted to move that around, if we wanted it to be, quarterly every 3 months or quarterly every month, that's sort of what I wanted to pose before the committee today, because I know school timelines with like spring break or situations like that, health, things of that nature. I just want to consider everyone who responded back to me with their various situations, and also give the opportunity to maybe move some flexibility around in terms of dates.
There have been prior years, and I'm sorry, I'm speaking as the grandmother for this group because I think I've been on here longer than everyone else.
Just about.
Almost. And we have, when during lean years, only met quarterly, but in light of the fact that we're having the housing summit, there's more attention than ever on the affordable housing aspects in the state legislature, at a county level, and a city level. I am of the opinion that we probably need to meet even next month and stay on top of the grant situation, what's happening in the legislature pertaining to affordable housing, and what's happening at a local level in terms of updates to our code language. I think that, for example, the time is right because the county and the cities have recently adopted accessory dwelling unit language. It's the time to catch everyone up on what that means, how that affects the ability to provide affordable housing. And we need to also talk about the new bill that's coming out regarding ADUs, accessory dwelling units, and how that's going to change the language and what effect it's going to have to the actions we've already taken. I'm not sure who would want to give that report,
Hint, hint. Wink, wink.
but it would be nice, really, for both cities and the counties to give a brief update on the exact language that they've adopted, and then talk about the changes that are happening in the legislature right now and the likelihood of them being adopted and what that's going to mean for all of us procedurally and legislatively in terms of how we have to go about adopting, so that the public will understand, here's what happened, here's the procedures that have to happen, and this is our final outcome, what we're going to end up with. I think that's very, very important. So many times I have found that the public really doesn't understand procedurally what that local government has to do from moving from point A to point B. And I think that it would be beneficial for us as a group to make sure that the community, those people in line and those people that are here that are not in local government, understand that this process has to happen. And in the meantime, just be patient, because advertising, meeting dates, all those things have to be coordinated. You understand what I'm saying?
I do. I would like to just add to that I think, first of all, I am 100% in. So if we're voting on that, that's something I do think we need to do. Because I think things coming this season that we didn't expect last season.
Correct.
In addition to that, I would like to just say my more recent experience has been that no two governmental agencies work the same. So in the entity, and especially if you are familiar when MAC was at the county, if a project was 100% affordable, it had the code specifically gave them expedited review and some certain leeways. He was very cognizant of that, and very, because of his feelings on affordable housing, was very supportive of that, and other agencies may not operate in the same way. And I think we could look at the comparison and see if there's ways that we need to make sure that, we are recommending language to the county commission or whoever, the county commission, if it needs to be changed. So, so I think that's a viable part of it as well. The changes that are coming legislatively, which everything is still,
Up in the air.
in the air, but some of them are pretty significant, very, very significant.
They
And we
really
have-
are.
And we are in support of some and not others, so, I mean,
And,
Well,
and
and-
legislation is moving, it's moving right now.
Yes.
it is, yeah.
And when we need that advocacy, this is when we need it. And
There's
we have
several bills that have already been passed in the Senate, now they're going to the House.
Yes.
And we need to be aware of how quickly things are changing so that we can react appropriately. Yes, Dr. Zanya?
I was just going to ask, because it's my understanding that this year Walton County does not have a lobbyist. Has that changed?
No, the county
Have a
still
lobbyist.
maintains their lobby.
Their lobbyist, I thought, had resigned at the end of last year, and
Not to my
if somebody
knowledge,
knows,
their
okay.
liaison,
Yeah.
I believe the BCC's liaison is Mr. Brannon. And I recently spoke to him as in like 2 weeks ago about some of the things that the Emerald Coast section was concerned about.
so
And
he's
so he's still
a
communicating with the
liaison,
lobbyist.
but they're hired lobbyists.
There is a hired
What I mean is
lobbyist.
he
I had a
is
meeting with them
communicating
last
with the
week.
lobbyist.
Okay,
I
so
don't
they
remember the
replaced-
name of the firm, but they do have an active lobbyist in
Okay.
Tallahassee.
Because it was Kelly Horton, and I know
I
that,
think she's still involved.
And I think they were there last week at
Yeah.
the,
Mm-hmm.
when everybody went to
If we're
Tallahassee.
sensing,
yeah.
if we're sensing legislative momentum and county momentum, I fully want to see us meet more often so that we can capitalize. I would love to show some results by the end of the year.
Yes.
I think we owe it to the county and to the public to show some solid results. And so anything that I can do to help push that forward, that's what I would like to see.
That's a great idea, because I know the Rural Renaissance Bill passed the Senate. I don't know if it'll pass that, but that changes our funding up to $1 million.
It does.
Just for our
It's-
county. But I do want to let the group know that Florida Housing does a free call every Friday with updates from legislative. So I know that there's supposed to be a lot on this call. I am very happy to send that information. I'm very happy to do the summary.
Forward it
I'm
to
not,
us,
I
yes.
won't be able to attend in
call.
person next month, but I am happy to tune in. I'm happy to provide the rental statistics and everything. And I'll wait for public for the rest.
And then, you know,
Those calls are productive. They're very productive. It's not like you're just sitting there hearing, I mean, you can ask questions, it's interactive, so.
and we are an advisory board, which means we are allowed to advise. And because our situation with housing is so critical at this point, we've seen Tom's reports. We've seen, most of us have seen the bills that are coming forward to provide the accessory dwelling units to deal with affordable housing issues. And I think that we can formulate not only a philosophy of what it is that we're intending to do, but we can actually formulate recommendations that we can make available to the BCC and in turn to the local municipalities on ways that we can effectively impact positively the affordable housing issues in this area. For example, I know all 3 municipalities in our area, me with 2 of them and a peer in another municipality in this area, we review our land development code annually for updates that we need to make for legislative purposes. I don't know if it's as often in the county, but I do know in the municipalities it is. I think that we are in a perfect position to make certain recommendations that can be forwarded to the municipalities to say, here's some positive things you can do to affect affordable housing, and we can consider those as we make other updates to our code, being the person who makes the updates in Freeport. So I think that we have not leveraged our abilities in the past in a way that truly provides meaning to the county and to the cities, but I think that because affordable housing is on the minds of everyone, we are now at the cusp of an opportunity to help promote that change. As John said, and he said it so well, we want to show some results and things that we were able to do to positively affect the situation, and I think that's one of the ways we can do it. And then just in my opinion, I'll meet as often as this board feels like we need to, but because of what's happening in the legislature right now, because the housing summit is coming up, I think that we need to meet more often rather than less often. I really don't think that at this point in this juncture, a quarterly is sufficient. I think we need to meet bi-monthly at a minimum, but due to the current situation that I've just outlined, I believe that we need to meet again next month and update these initiatives that we're working on. We need to update based on the grant. We need to update based on legislative changes coming down the pipe. And we need to update based on where we are in terms of the Housing Summit in May. There may be some effective ways that we can assist with that, certainly by our presence, but also just by having a thorough understanding of what's really going down right now. This is our opportunity to shine, folks. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yes, I was just going to ask, so with that being said, do we still want to do the third Tuesday of every month?
That work for everyone, the third Tuesday? Does that, I'm getting general assent from the board, Vicari.
Just, it's spring break, so I won't be, but typically, yes, the third Tuesday, I think, works great.
So with that in mind, just being proactive. So the housing summit would be that week before. So it would be the second week of May, and our meeting would be the 19th, and I think the summit is meeting
And
the
that becomes a
13th.
follow-up to the
Right. So I
housing
didn't know
summit.
if you wanted to do a meeting before then and then have the summit and then meet afterwards, or if you wanted to do a follow-up as to like sort of fleshing out what went right, what went wrong, those types of things.
Well, this is a multi-pronged situation.
Right.
We're keeping an eye on what's happening legislatively. We're going to participate and be involved in the housing summit. And we need to deal with those things sooner rather than later. So if we meet in March, we can have a follow-up, what I would call a Monday morning quarterback meeting the week after the after the summit, excuse me. I have a new appliance in my mouth, so I feel like I have cotton. But that would be a time to evaluate what happened, lessons learned. Now, how can we apply this to what we do? What do we come out strongly as being in support of? What didn't go well? What did go well? Those kinds of things, Miss Melissa. What?
Okay, so, yeah, I know, I get that face. I got questions. So are we talking about now having a meeting on March 17th? You talked about more often. Are we going to do them monthly until the legislation is over and the grant, the process
I
and
feel
all
like
the
we
things?
need to. How does the rest of everybody else
March
feel?
17th, April 21st, and May 19th, and June 16th is what I have on my calendar, and that's what I'm asking.
Well, session ends the first week of March.
True, but our grant won't. So I was just wondering if we were going to continue to discuss and try to build a grant if we get permission from the county commission.
Yes.
We're trying to push the ball forward and make some results this year.
I'm asking for you all for clarification because I heard monthly and then I heard from
Bi-monthly.
March to May. I'm just trying to write it down.
For
And
the
if-
immediate future through May, and probably at least through May, I think we need to meet monthly because of the multiple situations we're dealing with. We're not dealing with, other people are dealing with, but they affect us. It's important that we understand what's going on and be able to make appropriate recommendations.
And I just want to say that I'm having a discussion with our staff because our stakeholder meetings are bi-monthly and they're always exactly the same day as the AHAC meeting. So sometimes that keeps me from being able to be here. But we're thinking about maybe moving it to Thursday so that I could actually be here in person. It
That
just
would be
makes a
amazing,
difference.
Diane.
Yeah, so we're talking about that, but it's been that way forever, but you can always change.
And
things.
I would like to say, to Latilda's point, meeting virtually is also an option as well. So if we want to have a physical meeting every month up until the May point, but maybe have a follow-up on, like she said, like a Monday virtually, that also works too. Similar to what you said earlier, the good thing about being with this AHAC committee, you all have the flexibility. I just want to make sure when I'm building out the calendar that I have the dates appropriate, so that way I can send those out in advance. And I want to avoid the hiccup that we had for this month. So I just want to, similar to what Melissa was saying, build out maybe for the next 3 months, and then in May we can revisit and see if monthly is
That's a
better.
good plan.
Okay.
I think revisiting it, summertime always presents a ton
Summer
of, a
gets
ton of
crazy,
issues.
yeah.
And so I'd like to get as much done up to that point, and then we
Okay.
can reevaluate.
I agree with John. Let's go out through the next 3 months and then reevaluate based on results, based on decisions made, actions taken by the legislature. How do we move forward?
Yeah, who's gonna be writing and constructing the grant and submitting it?
The grant will be written by Emerald Coast Regional Council. The
Yes, and
project
we will be
manager
working
would be
with the
Vicari,
Florida Housing Coalition to get that.
with
accomplished.
assistance from Walton County staff.
Do we have a grants coordinator anymore?
I don't know. I know that,
Sorry, the county does have a grants coordinator, but I believe that the Emerald Coast Regional Planning Council's grants coordinator is more effective in this particular avenue. Plus, they'll be working with Ally in the grant
Yes.
writing for this particular grant.
Yes, they've offered to assist us with what we needed because they've
They know
worked
exactly
with
what
counties
we're
in the
looking for.
past to get the
Yeah.
grants. So,
That's
yeah.
fantastic.
Yes.
Thank you. That is a huge,
wonderful.
tremendous impact that will not, if we obtain this grant, cost our county anything.
Yes. And what I think I'll do also is try to get the presentation that was presented last time with the county that they have already assisted with their housing action plan, just so I can send it out to the committee members so they can see what it will actually all entail.
and if we need to have some, in addition to our regular meetings with an agenda, if we need to do some team calls to really dig deep into some of these things, like the grant application, and talk about that, or talk about a situation or anything like that, we can always do a team meeting in addition to this. Yes, Dr. Zanya.
Does the sunshine law affect any of that?
Anyone can, yes, it does. It has to be sunshine, it has to be noticed properly, but as a teams meeting, we do that
Boarded.
often with other boards.
Is the grant based on award or is it based on criteria and need? How are they getting their criteria?
Speaking to the mic,
Is your grant based on award or by need or availability of funding?
or
It's-
point system?
I think based on how they described it, it's more so based on need because it's a planning assistance grant. So what they have done with the other counties in the past is similar to what they're doing with us. They give the discount, they explain how the housing action plan will be beneficial to the county, probably getting some of your numbers and feedback in regards to where you are finding some deficiencies in the areas of affordable housing, and then presenting it as a way to improve that process.
Thank you, Bakari.
You're welcome.
Is there any further discussion on Bakari? I think that we have a general consensus that we're going to meet monthly through May due to the need to work on support the grant, legislative changes regarding affordable housing, just trying to stay ahead of all these things that are happening. I had general assent from the board. It's a scheduling issue, so I don't think we need a vote on that. We've just provided you with guidance in terms of our scheduling. Next, we have public comments. Does anyone have any burning issues they want to address with the board at this time?
No burning comments, but just to say that I do plan to circulate. We call around, as I have before, to get localized rents so that we can get real-time information and not something that is 3 years old. So if everybody could look, because it's just us calling around and volunteers, if everybody will look over and make sure that every affordable complex and every apartment complex is listed on that list, to make sure that when I present that to you, that we haven't left any new developments out or any new developments that are coming out. So just a helpful reminder, that is that spreadsheet that they call and literally ask, what is the rent for a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom? We do it by area and circulate it. So I will be circulating that to all of you guys. If you can if we've missed any apartment complex that isn't on the list, if you can let us know, not asking you to call, just providing the name and maybe the information so that we can have accurate and real-time statistics for the housing summit.
And Teresa, we have a housing navigator for the first time ever this past year, and she may be able to add, because that's what she does all day long, is call
Perfect.
around in Walton County.
That's
Perfect.
great, Diane. Thank you.
Yeah.
Melissa, did you have anything?
Tom, for the record, do you want to say what you told me last week?
Sure, is that working?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can hear you.
Just to bring you up to date on the housing agency, we got an email this weekend, and we had asked for permission. We have not put anyone on our program since May of last year. That we feel like that we could add a few families on. In fact, we have 8 families that are on what we call an emergency housing voucher that was implemented by HUD during COVID. And HUD has now told us that they will not continue that program this year. So they have asked us to do one of 2 things: either add them to our program, which we can't do at this time because we can't issue any future vouchers, or they will become homeless.
Add to the 96 that we had during point in time in one night, 96. So, yeah.
96. So you can see how big of an issue this is for our county and the nation, and the nation as a whole. We received, we asked for permission before the board last week to allow us, if they allow us to issue them a voucher in 2026, to let them have a precedent to be placed before any of the 1,400 families that's on the waiting list, so that we can keep them with a voucher and on the program. So the letter that we received this weekend said that they have over 800 housing agencies in the United States that are shortfall agency, and they cannot make the decision as to whether funding is going to be available for the rest of this year. And I think you're having some of the same issues.
Because most of our disabled people are going to end up being homeless because they're doing away with the permanent supportive housing. It's much like the voucher program, but yeah, we're going to have a huge problem real soon.
It's almost, and I don't want to mean to overemphasize this. I think we're approaching a humanitarian issue.
We are.
It's not for the people that are making over $50,000 a year. It's the people that make 30% of average income that have nowhere to live.
Or just on
If
SSI,
that
that's
does
their
not
income.
have a place on the summit, I'm going to tell you that it's sad. That's not something we talk about. And I know it's something that turns everybody off, completely off. Flip the light switch off when you talk about that group of people, and you just have to see that, believe that, but it's a fact. And what we do about that, I don't know anybody that has an answer for that. But, go ahead, Mr. Carroll.
Well, I mean, just to point out, if it was a priority, it could be solved. I heard that one facility that was built in the Everglades has cost us over $400 million in Florida that wasn't in any budget, that isn't going to get any federal reimbursement. So the money can be found for things that are priorities. And, I think all of us understand the issues and want to find solutions, but it does require funding. And so someone's going to, elected officials have to make this a priority. I agree with you, Tom.
Well, and I'm not saying local elected officials are the ones
They don't have any
have
control
any problem
over
with
it.
this. This is a federal issue that nationwide we're facing at this point. Our people, and let me be very honest, and I certainly don't want to speak out of place here, is that we don't have the money to maintain the doors open over the next few months. Okay, Mary King is currently going to each commissioner, and they are talking outside of me as to what are we going to do with this thing. The options is to find an agency, and I've told you this before, but we're currently seeking somebody to take over this agency in Walton County. This should come, it was to come before the board last week, and there has not developed consensus this time, so, in the next month or so, I think you'll probably see this come before the Board of County Commissioners to whether we try to find an agency outside of Washington County that would take over the housing agency. I don't think there's a great deal of support for that among the commissioners, as for my talking with them, but it's a trying time right now, and I think this is gonna come to some head, maybe even before the May time period that we're talking about here. It's sad for the people, and it's sad to answer every phone call and say there's no help for you here. It really is.
Every single one of those people are somebody's mother, grandmother, someone's brother or sister or child. Even if they aren't ours, they're somebody's family. Sometimes they're veterans or people who literally all they have is what they get from those Social Security. And as a nation, I think we failed them. Yes, Bakari?
It's, the other sad part is, you know, we've had clients pass away in all the years I've been doing this that we weren't able to get housed before the point it got to that point, and now what's going to happen over the next year, people are going to die. We're talking about precious lives here, so it is, while we're all sitting here, it's the reason we're sitting here. We know how important it is.
So I've been working on opening up the SHIP applications for Holmes, Walton, and Washington County. So those are being rolled out within the next few weeks. And Holmes's LHAP is up. And so I've been reading that. And I think just for future, there may need to be some adjustments with where we consider a home to be replaced at in terms of the home value. That has been the biggest conflict that I have personally run into. That has also brought challenge against the Florida Housing Coalition when they do our audits. Is they're asking us, well, why did you repair versus replace when the home value is this? And partially it's because if we replace a home, we may only be able to do one, but if we could repair some things just to at least maintain them having house, then, you know, we could avoid them not having a place to go altogether or limiting the amount of people that we're able to serve. And so hopefully with the Rural Renaissance, I know that everybody is like, if we could get that, because that could definitely change the game. But I think also too, just in my personal trying to figure out the layers between all of the counties and what can be more beneficial is definitely considering, one, how we can maintain homes that are already, I don't want to say livable, but at least enough to keep a roof over your head versus having people on a waiting list for X amount of years, potentially passing away or having to move away or not being able to get assistance at all because the person who originally qualified no longer qualifies. So I just wanted to throw that out there in terms of what's going on with SHIP, because it's very similar, and trying to also put some pieces together as to how we can maybe improve some of the language and the wording. So that way, when we are making certain moves, Florida Housing isn't putting the hammer down on us. Well, why did you make that decision versus doing this? Teresa?
No, I was just going to say, as the previous housing replacement agency, we are not doing what the other counties are doing. The max we did is 75, and the repairs, from what I had heard, you know, got just a little less than that, and we could have replaced it for the same amount of SHIP dollars.
Yes.
So we're not doing the 175.
No. I just wanted to throw it out there.
I just wanted to clarify
of,
that for the group.
Yeah, in terms of just on board in federal funding and where we are in terms of the amount of need versus the amount of funding that we have, and choosing between who do we serve with what we have, or do we just serve one family and just replace altogether. And another thing that I'm also working on in the back end, just personally, is reevaluating who we are awarding those contracts to. Just in my personal investigation, I feel like there are a lot of contractors who are maximizing where they probably could work around with us. So I have enlisted some contractors who are newer or who have not worked with us in the past to also be prepared to bid for projects. So that way we're not working with the same contractors who are maxing us out on projects when they could potentially be done at a lower cost.
That's
Corey,
awesome.
when's the next LHAP due for us to look at?
Ooh, and I think you all are 2028.
Okay.
Yes.
That's
So-
all those
But
things
there's
we need
no
to be thinking
reason,
about.
based on this issue, that we could not look at the strategies we have now.
Correct. And if you wanted to, I've been speaking with Michael Chaney about that.
Yeah.
If there was ever a issue to where you wanted to change something, even before that date, you can do what they call, it's a technical revision. I believe that's what they worded it as.
A
Yes.
technical adjustment. Yeah,
Yes,
you can do
and
that.
you can do that. They have done that in the past. The problem that I've seen though, when they have done in the past, is just proving why it needed to be done. And that is something that came up in this most recent audit. It wasn't for this county, but it was for another county is, why did you make that technical revision? And there wasn't really adequate proof. But I am a person who, I try to be very proactive at anything that I do, and I see what was done, and I am also sort of implementing new documentation strategies so that way when those questions are coming up, we have appropriate information to support the decisions.
When we know better, we do better.
Yes.
And I have to say that waiting a long time to have input to the LHAP, you don't want to be stuck in that. And as long
Right.
as you can prove the need and you have everything in place, I've
There's
seen them
something
do
that's
it.
not working.
If it's
we need to
not
fix it.
working and things have changed.
And so you all are more than welcome. That is my strategy in this next round of applicants, is reviewing the LHAP first and seeing maybe where there can be some adjustments, especially for the next one. But you are absolutely welcome to review the LHAP at any time and say, hey, I noticed that
And it would
we're
need to
doing
come
this, but
from
why aren't we doing
committee,
this?
To the board, it would need to be a recommendation that we all
But
reviewed it and
again,
said,
not
hey, this is.
willy-nilly. We need to really dig down and then formulate those cohesive research responses of why this is necessary.
Well, we want to get the most out of the funds that we get. We're hoping for more
Yes.
coming up, and that's why you really need to look at it, because if you go from 350,000, is it now? And
Oh, yeah, you all are higher. Yeah.
and you go to $1 million, then you need to look in where that's going to go if that
Yes.
happens. And I'm hoping.
Absolutely.
It's sounding good.
It is.
That may happen.
It's promising, but
know.
it's getting past certain seats. But I think also too, just there's a disconnect or maybe miscommunication between wording, similar to what you were saying, the public not really understanding how the programs work versus what we can actually do. And I think that's the hardship that I'm coming across is, for some reason, my most recent call volume is people think we provide emergency relief for like rent or utilities. And I'm not sure where that's coming from, but I'm
Well,
having
in
to.
Okaloosa County, they do rent assistance.
Yes.
So they hear that like, oh, I got it from SHIP.
Yes, and
But they got a lot
but
more
that's
money than
not
we
the
do, so-
priority that Walton has decided at this time, and so I'm having to have those hard conversations to say, well, I do apologize, but that's not what we provide, or people are facing evictions, and we have sort of made a priority for our seniors, for our disabled, and for those who are first-time home buyers, and so
Most in need, yeah.
it's very difficult navigating that, and we can do it, which is why I am looking at the LHAP, but the strategy just has to be consistent, and there has to be a lot of education. There has to be an education as to why we're doing what we're doing, because if not, then people feel as though, oh, well, my neighbor got a brand new door, and yeah, it was to keep them from not having to vacate their entire home.
Right.
So it's just, there's a lack of education piece, but big thing is if we wanted to implement some changes prior to a brand new LHAP, we could. It just has to be consistent across the board, and there has to be the documentation that supports the decisions that we make.
Exactly.
So I have a question. You bring up a good point. Last year we talked about and even voted that we were hoping to get some information on on how information is put out about what is going on, what is available to Walton County citizens. Is that something that I don't recall seeing anything that said, okay, here's a link that says whatever, or is that something that we are currently working on?
So I am in the process of doing that. The pushback that I received was if we were to add it to our website, for example, people don't read it or they don't understand it. So they're going to want to call anyway. To me, I don't feel like that's sufficient. So I'm going to be working with our marketing team to build out something. I have been working with some neighboring counties to sort of flesh out what's been working for them and what hasn't, similar to our pre-qualification process, because I feel like that can eliminate our waiting list as well, because that's something that I've also been working on since I've gotten here. I feel like when I first started here, Walton County had over 100 households on their waiting list. So far, I've been able to get that down to about 60. While that's good in theory, I hate having to remove people, but I feel if we would have maybe just prioritized some pre-qualification or just letting people know how our programs work, it would have eliminated that number a long time ago, and we maybe could have had a little bit more action versus having to explain. And so there is a way, I think with programs like this, and coming from my background, there is a way to incorporate technology as well as education without disregarding maybe the level of understanding for the user. And having a background in user X, which is user experience, there's a way that you can put it on a website and make it clear, whether that's a diagram that says, hey, are you looking for rehab? Are you looking for first-time homebuyers? Or are you looking for replacement? Click here. And it takes you to the explanation page. There's a way to navigate, based on age, based on your disability. I think it just needs to be intentionality, and it's sort of to what Dr. Zanya said, if there's a priority that says, okay, we want to be more efficient in education on how this program works, then we can do that. But I also understand the need to want to get through that waiting list first. So priority-wise, it's still on the list. It's just not as high. Only because the need is so vast. When I say call volume, because I no longer have administrative assistants, I'm probably getting anywhere between 20 to 30 calls a day, oftentimes having to have them go to voicemail because it's just me. And so I want it because I know that it will alleviate some of those calls, those questions, especially the ones that we just don't service at all. We don't do utilities right now. We don't offer rental assistance right now. So if I can just have a button that says, I need rental assistance, sorry, we don't provide that. That saves me time versus having to designate hours to call people back and explain our program and explain why we can't help them. And so it is on the list. It's just priority wise, I want to get these applications and surface those who we can right now. So my timeline would be summertime, because by then applications should be done, projects should already be rolling, and all I'm doing at that point is just making sure the contractors are doing what they're supposed to do. And hopefully we can rebuild out a process to where that information can not only be readily available, but it can be explained in a way to where people are like, okay, I can go on to the next thing. And another thing that I'm also doing is being proactive to offer services on a federal level that I know that are still in operation. So there are other avenues for first-time home buyers. For example, NACA, they do that and they prioritize rural areas because they know that most of the time people cannot afford to buy homes there. It's a great program because they offer 0% down, no closing costs, no fees. And so I found that out on my own personal just research. So I've been sharing that to other individuals. I've been sharing them about the USDA loans. If you're 62 plus and you're a senior, you don't have to pay that back. It's a grant for you. But if you're a single family household, it's 0% interest, no money down for you. So it's certain things that I've just been sharing on when I'm getting those calls or those emails. Hey, we don't have it, but you can try these other avenues here. And so I hate to tell people no without some sort of solution. I try to be solution oriented in that way. But I also think that there's some avenues with you know, just because I manage SHIP doesn't mean that I have to solely just offer SHIP. So I do also try to add that layer as well. So I think grand scheme of things, education is definitely important, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to incorporate that with what we currently provide. I do know people go to our website because they say, I saw that the waiting list is closed, but I still wanted to call anyway. So I know they want the information. They just need to know what it is, but I need to explain it in a way that they'll understand, because I know all the backside information about SHIP. They don't. But I need to break it down in a way that they'll be able to understand it, and also know the difference between our offerings, because some people, they think they want rehab, but they truly do need a replacement. Or they think they want a replacement, but in reality, you can survive with a rehab. So it's those conversations as well, too.
Thank you so much for doing that.
Oh,
Tom-
that's
yeah.
wonderful.
And Tom and I are feeling you on those 20 or 30 phone calls a day, don't we, Tom?
Saying no.
Oh, yeah. It's harder,
Just
but
like-
I would love to know just who is assisting the low-income people in our county today. I know that Diane and them have a few motel rooms to
Yeah.
put people in, but I don't think we realize really what's going on here.
and I will say in Walton's LHAP, the priority, so where, no matter where you fall on a waiting list, if you are a senior or if you're disabled or if you are extreme low income, you are prioritized. So I don't want to say you skip the line, because I don't want to make it seem like just because you're on the waiting list that you're getting skipped over. I do try to go in the order in which they were added, but we do have priority status on your waiting list level. So, but the majority of the people who are on the waiting list fall within
Fall
a
into
priority
those
category anyway. I think I've maybe come across a few, and most of them are like rehabs. They heard that they can maybe get their roof fixed or a window, but majority of the people who I've been in contact with for the pre-application process are senior, or they are extreme low income.
And I know I'm catching up some, but Joel, does Tri-County still do CDBG for Walton County? Who does
We do
CDBG?
community service block grant, which helps with rent assistance, emergencies, going back to work, some of that.
Who receives the CDBG or
The
I
county,
forgot their name, but they are in communication with us, because some of the recipients for CDBG were also on the
yeah,
SHIP
because
waiting list.
CDBG will help with like rent assistance and.
They have assisted, I believe, 5 households between the end of last year and coming up with this year,
In
because they just
Walton?
called.
Oh,
They just
good.
called me
Okay.
not too long ago for
Awesome.
follow up.
So who at the county does that? Because
I will have to. I can pull up their name, but
And each city
yeah,
can apply for CDBG funds.
I can look it up really quick.
I'd asked for Defuniak because our project qualifies.
Yeah,
It's like E.F. Hutton speaking.
I remember when Joel did everything.
So it's Jones, Phillips, and Associates. They're the ones who have been in communication with me. And they did work with, I believe, 5 households last year for us. And so those 5 households were taken off of the SHIP waiting list because they were serviced through them.
y'all probably remember Bob Jones from several years ago, and he exclusively wrote CDBG grants for several counties. He passed away, and I'm not sure who picked that up after he passed.
Okay.
But,
Business with his daughter, and I
Okay.
think she still has that company. I think she's Jones Phillips.
but Bob's did them through the Walden County and the
He did
Funiac for
multiples in Freeport.
15 or
Long
20
time.
years, yeah.
Yep. Sure did.
Is there a census for any of, Christian or religious-based organizations, like Baptist men's groups that can do small repairs, a gutter repair or replace a window or something like that?
I would love that. If you know of any contractors, big or small, as long as they have license and they can present their license, they can do the work. And like I said, I have been building a new list, because from my research, I believe in Walton County, we've only had the same 3 contractors every single year. And because they have been the only contractors, they know how much they can get. They know that it's a guarantee, and so they usually max out. I will also say that's another education piece. I can't vouch because I wasn't here, but there have been complaints from recipients for some of the work that those previous contractors have done. So that's another reason why I wanted to build out a new list, because just because you're getting a SHIP funded repair, I don't want it to just be anything. And so right now I have about 6 in total on the new list, but you're more than welcome to add, because in my opinion, the more the better, and the more competitive the bidding pricing is going to be. So if you know some men who are, maybe they work solo, whatever, I think the only requirement is that you just have to have a license. That's it.
Okay, let's keep this, one more comment from Dr. Zania, and then the clock on the wall says we're at the end of our hour. Dr. Zania.
Yes, and I believe that the recording will have stopped already, so I think, my question, I wanted to welcome new and returning members to the committee. And my question was, in the past, when it was the end of somebody's term, we usually as a committee reviewed all of the application packets and made recommendations for some of these openings that we have on the committee. And I just wondered, Madam Chair, were you afforded any opportunity to review any of the volunteer packets before the new committee appointments were made?
No.
And I don't know if staff, did you have an opportunity? I don't know, did you all review any of the volunteer packets before the commissioners made appointments?
Yeah, as part of that process to bring those in front of the board, we reviewed them in some manner. It was staff's contention that and recommendation that the board hire the incumbent when it was available, when he or she was available. That wasn't always the case in their voting, unfortunately, for some. So, but if that's something that the committee would like in the future, it's something that we will absolutely ensure that you all receive packets, at some point prior to it. There is some issue, and certainly this last time, where we received applicants, up to the day of that last hearing.
All of them were received after our last.
Right, so that can create a bit of a void there for you all, but yeah, we can approach that in at least in the best way we can, with all things considered moving forward.
And I don't know how many folks actually, if you all went to the webpage that shows all the committee appointments, because we're missing someone who's actively engaged in home building. That's one of the potential places that we could use somebody. Banking or mortgage industry, now we're missing that person. We have 2 people on who are citizens who reside within the jurisdiction, and I think all of us who are on the committee also reside within the jurisdiction. So having additional advocates there, if we needed, if we couldn't find these other people, but somebody who's in the residential home building industry, there's some folks that we're missing, and we have some duplicity. Advocate for low income, we have Mr. Paul and Diane, and I had always thought that Tom was representing the advocate for low income, but so now we'll have 3 folks, which is good, but I'm just saying, we've got some gaps here of expertise that would be nice, I think, to have. And I know my term, I believe, and others are coming up at the end of the year, so I think it's something that we should definitely.
Right before the meeting, we did have a conversation with Kristen, who very helpfully helped us go over the statutory requirements for this board. And there are you have to have a certain number of positions, but there's no way any community is going to have it down to the T. So there's some flexibility, and thank you, Kristen, for that help.
Yes,
We
8 to
appreciate
11,
that.
yeah.
We really appreciate that, and this is not criticism of staff in any way, shape, or form.
No,
We just, when things change and we don't know about it, then we kind of wonder why. And it has nothing to do with staff whatsoever, because
yeah,
we get accustomed to things, you know, as these positions come up on a yearly basis, have gotten accustomed to make a recommendation based on the skill
exactly. We've
set
gone through
that
these
will
applications,
add
yes.
to this board,
Yes.
because this is so important, you know, and when things change, we just have questions.
And I will say that we are looking for those same representatives for our board in the coming year, because that is so important for us to have developers, you know, people.
Yeah, you need that
But
expertise.
you need that input, because
You need that
I mean,
expertise.
we deal with clients and those
Yes.
issues.
It's
We need
important that
people
all
dealing with housing.
sides of the affordable housing issue is represented,
Oh,
and that
absolutely.
we understand a variety of viewpoints. It's not one particular vein of viewpoint.
Not
It's-
at all.
it's
That's,
all
yeah, that's why
sides.
I'm saying, you know, having a lot of duplicity of, you know, one area when we don't have expertise from some of these other areas, I think would be helpful, so
I think that's
thank you.
just a point. It's not just, as we look
Yeah.
forward, we need to be thinking about home building. We need to be thinking about experience in the banking world dealing with affordable housing. And I'm going to close comments at this time because seriously, guys, we're over.
Oh, yeah, the recording's over.
And I'm going
This
to
is just
call
for
this
us.
meeting adjourned at 11:07. Thank you so much for being here and providing your input. What?
Still certified building contractor for 35 years, and I own 14 properties.
You are the guy. You're the guy. Well, I'll
Oh,
make
I'm
sure she
also the
knows that.
vocational certified teacher for the county.
Yep.
Oh, that's the right, I work for the National Home Builder Association.
Concepts or change.
We always end up fighting for the same stuff. It's so funny.
And we'll.
We always do. We will, Diane.
We'll be doing it.
Diane and I are always making the same points, which means we're doing something right.
It's a battle, it's good to have some good soldiers.
Exactly. Thanks, Diane.
Thank you.
And it's not just us, it's the station.
I know last time you were saying that. So I just wanted to make sure this was opportunity was right there.